Thank you so much, Representative, for being here, and I really appreciate your advocacy for safeguarding our elections. I think that's so important. We're all here to represent our districts, and I want to share. I have a lot of senior citizens who have voted for more than half of their life, and most recently, in many years, they voted absentee. Many of these seniors are disabled, they lack transportation, they might be living alone, and under your resolution, if their registration is audited or if they move, how are we supposed to expect them to find their way to the clerk's office to provide proof of citizenship? They might not even have their birth certificate. They might have to find it. They might have to request a certified copy. That takes time and it takes resources. So I'm concerned that this resolution might impact them when they've voted for more than half of their life. They're voting absentee, and now this is going to impact them because they're going to have to find a way to go to the clerk's office to prove their citizenship if the Secretary of State is given the authority to audit their registration or their absentee ballot. So what are your thoughts about that concern?
That's a great question. So first of all, it's interestingly enough has been criticized that the constitutional amendment has left up to the legislature how citizenship will be proved and how photo ID, what is going to be acceptable forms of photo ID when casting your ballot. That was purposefully done, right? That was done with specific intent to ensure that the legislature, the body of the people, determines what is the best approach forward in order to ensure that citizenship is verified and what are the different options and opportunities available to do that. I'm happy to work with you in figuring out what is the best solution to ensure that citizenship is verified while creating a situation that the people that you're speaking of are not burdened.
Thank you. If I may, Chair, you brought up a great point about married women and changing their last name. Their ID now no longer matches their birth certificate or their passport. So can you, now that we're here today, can we as a legislature, can we guarantee that we are not infringing on the rights of American women's right to vote because they got married, changed their last name? Now are we expecting them to provide multiple forms of verification in order to prove that they can continue to vote?
So there's two answers to that. First of all, I will not support any legislation that goes in to implement this that does not allow a clear path for married women to register to vote, to prove their citizenship easily, at number one. So I will commit to that 100%. Number two, I believe it was the Deputy Secretary of State brought up the point that there is no nationwide database that makes this process really, really easy. And frankly, that should be in place. That's why I'm in the process of working with Customs in order to make sure that that is implemented. So that way there could be, my goal is that before this is actually implemented, takes effect, there will be a nationwide database available to the states and available to the counties for the purpose of checking and verifying citizenship that way. That way the onus and the burden is not on the individuals at all. That's my goal, that is my intent, and that is what I expect to do. That being said, it is whether or not that happens, we can ensure that only U.S. citizens are voting in our elections without creating a situation where we're overburdening anybody. On another point that I want to make is addressing this disingenuous notion of a poll tax. The fact that a member of this body would actually assume that I would be in any way, shape, or form looking to institute a poll tax, and yes, I am looking directly at you because that is extremely offensive. Number one, it's disingenuous at best, but I would say it's just an outright lie meant to derail my effort and meant to impugn my character. And so I will not tolerate that. It is not in any way, shape, or form a poll tax. And in the scenario that there is a burdensome situation where somebody has to get a passport, or they have to get documents from the county, there are administrative scenarios where counties can provide that information. They can stamp it and provide it to individuals. So to go down that path is just ridiculous.
I do see in the resolution that the state would provide reimbursement for those costs. So I saw that was there. But what about service members who turn 18 and they register to vote and then they get deployed, they're out of the country? Now you're expecting them to provide proof of birth certificate or passport, but they're overseas because they're serving our country. How are we going to ensure that our service members can still vote and that their vote will be counted?
Right.
Because they're not physically going to be able to go to the clerk's office within the time frame under this constitutional amendment to provide that information. So in those cases, how are we going to ensure that our service members can still vote when they're deployed overseas?
So again, that is exactly why the constitutional amendment leaves it up to the legislature to answer these questions. Admittedly, this is a complicated process. In order to ensure the integrity of our elections, in order to ensure only citizens vote in our elections, it's complicated because there are questions like that. You can't fit all of that in a constitutional amendment. It just doesn't make sense, nor does it actually belong in the Constitution. The right to vote belongs in the Constitution. That's there. The requirement that only citizens should vote in our elections should be there. That's what I'm trying to put in there.
It does say in this resolution, though, that they have 7 days to prove their citizenship, and it takes more than 7 days to process a birth certificate or even get a passport. And if they're overseas, how are they going to, you're giving them 7 days to do all of this? What if they have their birth certificate on them, but they physically cannot get to the clerk's office to prove their citizenship?
I believe you're talking about same-day registration. So how are they voting same day as they're registering if they're
I'm talking
deployed?
about
Instead of
service
song,
members.
we're going to move on now,
Right,
please.
thank you, Chair.
Yes, we can take this offline.